Hey there, my name is Brian Walsh with Allegra Marketing Print and Mail, and I am here with Sean Fergus, the real estate lawyer from the law offices of Sean Fergus and a fellow LaTip member. Sean, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. My name's Sean Fergus. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing for over 20 years. Started out as a state's attorney many years ago, and for the last 20 plus years, I've been working in the area of real estate and civil litigation.
Okay, and you had when we talked earlier today, you told some stories about where you interned and how you worked in the nighttime narcotics division. I thought that sounded interesting. Was there any, just without naming names, any crazy stories from that era?
There are many crazy stories from that time period. The names of which I've had to change to protect the innocent. But yeah, I was a law student at the time, and under Illinois law, if you have a supervising attorney and you're working in a public interest capacity, you can actually try cases. So I was a law student at DePaul, night student at DePaul, and then during the day, working with the state's attorney's office, and then I was in the night narcotics division. And I was actually trying felony cases while I was still in law school, which most attorneys, probably the vast majority of attorneys, never actually do trials. I was doing them back in law school.
Wow. And did you win, or were you just like a college kid, like you go to school, then you go try a case, then you go out and get drunk?
No, well, we won more than we lost. Usually if it got to that point where there was a trial, it was usually either a dead bang loser or a dead bang winner, and they had nothing to lose. Spent a couple of years working for the state attorney's office in Cook County while I was in law school, but then after law school, I actually had the opportunity to go out to Kane County, which was like a whole other world as far as, just a completely different mindset, completely different approach to criminal justice out in Kane County as opposed to Cook County.
And is it more? I mean, I'm just thinking Cook County. You got Chicago, all that up. So I'm assuming Cook County being more stringent than Kane.
No, very much so in Kane County as opposed to Cook County. There was very much more of an emphasis. I mean, one of the things that the state attorney out in Kane County made abundantly clear to us is that he wanted us to do the right things for the right reasons, and if we did the right thing for the right reason, then he would have our back. Whereas in Cook County, it was more of a just kind of move the cases type mentality. And we worked a lot harder out. We had less cases, but we worked harder on the cases that we had probably out in Kane as opposed to Cook. Not to criticize Cook County, but it was just a very different experience going from Cook County to Kane County.
So how does that translate to what you do now, the real estate law? I'm assuming there's still a difference between Cook and Kane County?
Well, yeah, and fast forwarding a little bit, once I left the state attorney's office, I started working for a civil law firm, and we were across the hall from Chicago Title. This is 20 plus years ago, and two of the attorneys that worked in the firm that I went to did quite a bit of work with banks and did quite a bit of real estate work. So that's how I got started in real estate work. I started working up closings, residential closings, with two other attorneys, two more senior attorneys with much more experience than I was. I was basically a brand new attorney. And after a while, started building up clientele and kept that as a focus point of my practice. We had the complex civil litigation on the one side, and then I also did the real estate. And I tried to do that more on a consistent basis with my old firm. And then that just kind of grew. It grew to where it was a consistent and it compromised a significant portion of my practice.
So you mentioned your old firm. I know recently you have started your own firm. What kind of experiences or aha moments did you have at your own firm?
Well, one of the big things that I was doing wrong for many years was the senior partners would always tell you, we got to find business. You got to go find business. And the way they would explain how you find business is you basically go out and ask people, hey, can I be your attorney? And it doesn't work. It really does not work. But one of the great aha moments that I got, especially working with LaTip, was don't look for the individual, because immediately people put their guard up to you. What you want to find is you want to find referral sources. So you want to find people that get to know you, that trust you, and that will tell people if you have a real estate need that this is the person to go to. So everybody wants to be your attorney. Everybody wants to get your business and so on and so forth. Some people more than others. A lot of times you get what you pay for. But in building relationships with other professionals, they get to know you. They get to know the quality of your work. They also get to know the quality of your character, and that goes a long way. I mean, one of the things that people say is that the biggest issue is that you don't have to like your attorney, but you should trust your attorney. And especially with real estate, a lot of times people end up either both not liking their attorney and or not trusting their attorney. But with me, that's something that a lot of people have commented that, they both like to work with me and they also trust me because, I'm always looking out for their best interest.
Right. Yeah. And you've mentioned twice so far, character, the guy in Kane County telling you as long as you do the right thing, he's got your back, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, character does go a long way. I know that you also volunteer your time with the Boy Scouts and stuff like that, helping younger people develop character.
Yeah, I have 3 boys, and all 3 boys are involved in scouting. And then they kind of sucked me in a little bit when they were in Cub Scouts. And then it was like a Alice in Wonderland. It was like going down that wormhole because every time I turned around, I was getting signed up for something new, which I quietly enjoyed. I enjoyed working with the kids.
Right.
We've had a lot of fun. I've got to do a lot of things that I wouldn't otherwise done. 3 years ago, I was living on an island in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Florida. My son and I were out snorkeling with a group, and we looked over about 5-10 feet from us. I'll probably a little further than that, probably 20, 30 yards away. There was a shadow in the water, and it turned out to be a 7 to 10 foot bull shark that kind of came, checked us out, and then swam parallel to our path. And my reaction really was not, oh my goodness, there's a shark. It was like, wow, there's a shark. We should follow that, which was probably not the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I've gotten to travel to a lot of different really interesting places around the country, meet a lot of different interesting people, and see people doing things that, learning how to weld, learning how to, sail, learning how to shoot, learning how to, fish. I teach fishing. One of the fishing merit badge counselors. So that's one thing that actually this past weekend I was out doing with a group of scouts is teaching them the basics of fishing and how do you ethically fish, catch and release, good releases, things like that.
Right. Yeah. Character. So, all right. So as far as real estate stuff goes, I know one of the things that you always recommend is trying to understand how to title your house, whether it's in the name of a trust or you personally, etc. Is there anything you could advise people on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that you really have to think about because there's different advantages and disadvantages to how you hold the property. If you hold the property, let's say your husband and wife in Illinois, you want to hold the property as tenants by the entirety. Realistically, though, if you have real property in the state of Illinois, you're probably going to want to put that into a trust. This way, in the event that you and your spouse pass away, we know exactly what to do with that property. That property is in a trust, and then there's a trustee that's the successor trustee that's named who will know how to transfer that property when the time comes, and what beneficiaries are entitled to proceeds from that transaction. If you are, one of the other things too is if you're roommates and your buddies, and you want to go into a property, then you may want to hold the property as tenants in common. So if something happens to you, that property, your rights and the benefits of that property go to your estate, as opposed to doing things in joint tenancy, where let's say you're, boyfriend, girlfriend, or domestic partners, or what have you. If you're holding the property as joint tenants, then if you die, then the property reverts to the other person in that tenancy. So there's all kinds of advantages, disadvantages to how you hold property. The last thing you want to do is if you have a buddy and you guys buy a house together, and something happens to you, you would hope that your parents would then, or if you have children, they would get your proceeds from that house. But if you have it in joint tenancy with one of your buddies, then the property would revert to your buddy. So there's different advantages, disadvantages. Those are things you have to think about when you're going into a real estate transaction.
Yeah, and I know that kind of overlaps a lot with our wills and trust guy. And I know you guys work very well together on that type of stuff because all of it is interrelated, as well as, how the mortgage is done, all that kind of stuff. So it's great to have a network like LaTip to have those trusted people with you. One of the things you had also talked about today was disclosures. I know that was very important, again, kind of character driven, where if you know something's wrong, you really should report it up front, or you could literally wind up with your house back,
Right. And then different states have different requirements for disclosures. Illinois has, the big main one in Illinois is the Illinois residential real estate disclosure, which is really designed to protect consumers. So with that mindset, as far as protecting consumers, it can be, if you violate the Illinois Residential Real Estate Disclosure Act, the penalties can be quite significant and particularly painful.
All right. So title theft, that was one. Everybody keeps hearing those title theft commercials on the radio. And I know you talked about that. Is it just a scare tactic, or is that like a real thing?
No, it's a real thing. It happens. It's not a very common occurrence, but yeah, it does happen where someone will, fraudulently obtain title to your house and buy property, or not buy property, borrow money against your property, which then creates a whole cascade of complications that occur when somebody else has borrowed money against property that you own, or incurred, liens against your property without your knowledge.
And is that something then, I know you said you do real estate and civil litigation. Does that then go more towards the civil litigation part of it, that then you're going to fight that? Or?
Well, that's something like that. If there's clear theft, that's something that you would refer to the civil authorities. The first step would be if you find out about this, the first step you're going to make is go make a police report and get them involved, whether, it gets referred up to the Illinois Attorney General's office, or it gets, the state's attorney's office in your county. That would be your starting point as far as if somebody committed title theft against your property. That's where you'd start. Because generally, unless you know exactly who it was, 9 times out of 10, before you find out, they're long gone. And it's not like you're going to have a party that you can go out and serve with papers and serve with a lawsuit.
Right.
Unless one of the other instances is within families where, somebody will try and pull a quick one and try and, deed property away from another relative or something like that. Then you could, pursue it civilly. But, your first thing I would tell people to do to save a lot of time and money is start out with the police department, make your police report, have it reviewed by the Attorney General's office or the state's attorney's office, and then see what they say. Unfortunately, white collar crime is not a particularly high priority. A lot of times, unless the case is worth in excess of $100,000 or so, a lot of times some jurisdictions are reluctant to act on your behalf. But with a house, generally it's going to be in excess of $100,000.
Right. Unless
they've just done like taken out like an equity loan or something like that, or some type of small loan against the property. You're probably not going to get as much satisfaction as you would anticipate from law enforcement.
All right, so talk about LaTip. What we always ask, what would be a good tip for you? So, as a fellow LaTip member, what types of people, businesses, stages of life would be a trigger to say, "Oh, that would be a great lead for Sean"?
Anytime people are talking about buying or selling or leasing property, that's a good segue. It's a good point of contact, because real estate can be very stressful, especially when you're buying or selling or leasing property. There's a lot of different aspects to the transaction. There's a lot of ways to get yourself in trouble. So the guidance of a good attorney, it's essential when you're doing a real estate transaction. Again, whether you're buying the property, whether you're selling a property, or even leasing a property. If you have a lease, most residential leases, are standardized in the area, but there's still different aspects of it that if you don't understand it, don't just assume, ask somebody.
Right. All right. And what has, what has the tip kind of meant to you over the time that you've been in it?
LaTip was great because I actually started LaTip when I was still with my old firm. And even at that point, when you got that mindset, when you're sitting with other entrepreneurs, and that's the kind of mindset that you get from LaTip, because almost everybody in the group runs their own business, and they can empathize with all the different headaches, the administrative, the procedural headaches of running your business, but then also the marketing portion of your business. How am I going to get that next transaction in the pipeline so that I have income 2 months from now or 3 months from now or 4 months from now, as opposed to when you're just working for a big firm and other people are bringing in the work and they're covering the overhead, and you've got we had secretaries, we had receptionists, we had paralegals, we had clerks. Whereas, a lot of business owners, they have to kind of develop the business and take care of a lot of the aspects of running a business on their own. And that was really good with LaTip. That was an inspiration, is just to get together with a group of professionals, very diverse backgrounds. We've got HVAC guys, we have finance guys, we had lenders, we had real estate brokers, we had travel people, we had florists. We had a whole spectrum of professionals, all coming at with their own unique perspective, and they each bring something to the table, what they've, how they've succeeded. And that's not only is it a good source of information, but it's also inspiring to see how, you hear these stories about these people who started out in a garage and now they're running a, $1 million company with numerous employees because of that persistency and what they did and what they struggled with. And it's really inspiring.
Awesome. So what is one category that we don't currently have in our chapter that you think is somebody that you could pair well with? Either you could give a lot of tips to, or you could receive a lot of tips from.
I think somebody I could probably give a lot of tips to would be accountants. There's a couple different accountants that I currently will refer things to, because a lot of times, especially when people are doing, estates, or they're doing, relocating for work, there's a lot of different tax questions, and I don't dabble in tax law. So I will tell them that these are things you need to be aware of, and you need to talk with an accountant. So if you're doing a large transaction where you've got a large amount of money changing hands, it's really a good idea to sit down with a professional like an accountant and have him review and see where where you can improve and where you can maybe save some money, where you can actually do some real damage as far as your overall tax liabilities. So an accountant would be great for the group.
All right. So anybody watching, remember, if you know any accountants, drop it in the comments below. Or I've got Sean's website listed there, ferguslawllc.com. Sean, what is your email address?
It is Sean, SEAN, at Fergus, FERGUS, lawllc.com.
Okay, so that's how you can get a hold of Sean and let him know of any accountants. Just a brief mention of LaTip. If you don't know what it is, we meet weekly Tuesday mornings. Currently, with the pandemic, we're Zoom-based. But when it's not a pandemic, we do meet in person at 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. So you get your networking time done before you start your day. Most meetings that you're scheduling are not starting at 7 a.m. So you get in and you build relationships. I mean, there's nothing better than, as Sean said earlier, building those relationships so that other people refer you. That's the best way to grow a business, is the referrals of others. Because, I mean, we've all seen, even in today's digital age with Yelp and stuff like that, reviews carry a lot of weight. If it's a review from somebody that carries even more weight. So LaTip is great. It is one category per person. So, Sean's our real estate lawyer. We're never going to have another real estate lawyer in the group. So, but he has other categories like accountant that he thinks would be a great fit for the group. So if you want any more information about LaTip, you're welcome to come join us on our Zoom meeting for up to 2 times before making any commitment or paying any money or anything like that. Whether we're live or on Zoom, you're welcome to those 2 meetings. And after that, we'll talk to you about what's involved with joining. So do you have anything else to close out with, Sean? Anything you want to say?
No, Brian, thank you very much for having me on this morning. I really appreciate it. And if I can help you out anytime, please drop me a line. You have my email there. I'm always available.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian.